Ladies and gentlemen, from New York City, Joe Garagiola.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Tell the Truth. Thank you, Alan. Hey, you know what our first guest did for adventure? Well, I'll tell you what. I wouldn't do it for $1 million. You give me $1 million, I wouldn't do it for $2 million. And you'll see what I'm talking about right after we meet our panel, and here they come.
Here is Nipsey Russell, Peggy Cass, Bill Cullen, and Kitty Carlisle.
Well, when I said $1 million, I wouldn't do it. Nipsey came out. He said, I'll do anything for $1 million.
Right.
Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
Okay, and Bill Cullen gave me a note right here with his telephone number on to call him. He'll do it for $1 million.
Right.
What is it?
Well, we're going to find out right now.
I might do it for $1 million.
Well, I'll tell you. All right.
Make me an offer.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I want to show you a photograph, and I'm sure you'll recognize the World Trade Center right there in New York City.
Yeah,
it's
the
a
Twin Towers.
113-story climb, 1,350 feet high, making it the third tallest building in the world. Now, here's what I wouldn't do for $1 million, and you're talking about it. Our first guest, okay, jumped off the World Trade Center.
No, I wouldn't do it. You got
All
your
right,
money
let's
back.
meet him right now.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Owen Quinn.
Number 2.
My name is Owen Quinn.
And number 3.
My name is Owen Quinn.
Okay, your job, panel, is to make notes as I read Owen Quinn's aerial adventure. I, Owen Quinn, parachuted from the top of New York City's tallest skyscraper, the World Trade Center. Now, here's the story. In July 1975, I took an elevator halfway to the top and walked up the rest of the way. I told the security guard I was there to repair the roof, and then I put on my chute, strode to the wall, and gave a hard push-off into space.
Holy cats.
As I anticipated, the police were there to greet me when I landed. I was charged with disorderly conduct, reckless endangerment, and criminal trespass. But this was no spur-of-the-moment stunt. You see, I'm an amateur parachutist and construction worker. In fact, I worked on building the Trade Center for an entire year before I made my historic jump. Signed, Owen Quinn. Well, we'll get back to Owen Quinn and the two imposters right after this.
The World Below.
Okay, panel, I'm sure you haven't forgotten that the three gentlemen seated across from you all claim to be Owen Quinn, who parachuted from the top of the World Trade Center. And, Kitty, we're going to start with you.
Well, I'm glad I didn't say I would do it, even for $1 million. Number 1, who was with you when you went up?
A fellow by the name of Mike Sergio.
And number 2, he was already with a camera, I take it.
Of course.
Number 3, who was watching you?
Just Mike.
Well, then how come the police knew about it when you got down to the bottom?
On the way down, there are a number of people that saw it and
Out the window?
telephone. That's correct.
And number 2, what are the other 2 tallest buildings taller than the Trade Center?
Well, the Sears building in Chicago is the tallest.
What's the next
There's
one?
one in Canada. I'm not sure which one it is.
And number 1, you're a construction worker as well as a parachutist?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you learn how to parachute?
I just went to a school in Jersey, and I just took it up as a sport.
I see. Number 2, is it not dangerous to parachute from such a low height? I mean, that sounds like a contradiction, but is not the Trade Center a little bit too low for safety, for the parachute to open?
No, not if you know what you're doing. You do it
Well, number 3,
correctly.
at what height should the parachute really open?
Well, we'll never find out unless Nipsey wants to ask that question.
Well, I think that's a very good question. What is the lowest height from which one can safely parachute? Number 3.
2,500 is considered the minimum.
And what's the height of that building? It's 5,000 feet, isn't it?
No.
What's the-
1,350.
I see. All right. Number two, what is a free fall?
Free fall is the time you fall before you pull your chute.
Okay, thank you. Number one, it states in your affidavit that you worked on that tower for a full year. Were you one of the construction workers there?
Yes, I was.
Was it during that period of employment that you planned to make this jump?
Yes, sir.
Were you trained, still with number one, were you training at that time as a parachutist?
Yes, I was involved in parachuting at the time.
I see. Number two, from what type of aircraft do you jump when you do it as a sport?
From any small plane.
Yeah. And number three, did you do any body maneuvering to slow your descent in this particular jump?
Yes, some are used to control the chute and keep it away from the building.
I see. Now, what's the...
Peggy, your turn.
Hi, number 3, you were charged with disorderly conduct, reckless endangerment, and criminal trespass. What did they do to you?
Eventually, they dropped the charges after about a year and 15 court appearances.
15 court appearances? Well, number 1, why did they treat you so much worse than they did the fellow that climbed up the World Trade Center? He only got $1 a foot or $1 or something. Penny a story.
Yeah, I think at the time, whoever was involved with the, who was going to spank me, let's say, was in a bad mood. They didn't like the idea of me going through the security. So they put, you know...
Oh, there's a sourpusses all over. Now, number 2, did you get in trouble with your union?
No.
I thought it was brave myself. Number 3, did you use 1 or 2 chutes?
I had 2, I used only 1.
But now, number 3, when you pushed yourself off, after all, if you jump out of an airplane, you're clear all the way down, but how come you didn't, your parachute didn't knock into the side of the building?
It did, shortly after it opened, but I was able to get it away from the building.
And what about the parked cars down below? That's a pretty busy section of Manhattan.
Well, that's the reason that I jumped off the northwest side.
What's underneath the north?
Let's go to Bill Cullen.
Number 2, did you have 2 chutes?
Yes, I did.
Did you decide to determine when you would go to your front chute, your emergency chute, on a count basis?
Well, I was using the telephone building as an altimeter.
And you decided at what point to go to your second chute?
After about 50 floors.
Now, number 2, I'm going to stay with you. You had to practice this jump somewhere. I assume you practiced it from an airplane at safe altitude, trying to make sure that you'd get open with enough altitude to make it from the World Trade Center. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I had enough jumps prior to that to know what I was doing.
How many jumps, number 1, did you have when you made this?
850.
Did you have a wrist altimeter when you jumped from the Trade Center?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Only because of the fact that I'm used to jumping with it and I felt comfortable with it.
Can you get an Android device, number 3, that will open your emergency chute without any motion from you?
No.
Number 2, can you?
No.
We'll never find out. Because that means our game's over. Now they must vote. They'll mark their ballots, no consultation, no change. Do you think it's number 1? Or do you think it is number 2? Or do you think it is number 3? And we'll pay $50 for each incorrect vote, $500 if all the votes are wrong. Kitty, you got us started. How did you vote?
Well, I voted for number 3. I liked what he said about trying to keep the chute away from the, and he knew about the people looking out the window, and he knew about the difference in height between the safety and how much the Trade Center had, so I voted for him.
Okay, Nipsey.
Yeah, I went for number 3 because I tried to throw it in a spurious figure about 5,000. That's almost a mile, and he gave me the 1,300 foot height of the building. I voted for number 3.
Peggy.
Number 1 looks like Robert Shaw. I never saw he'd be good with fish. I voted for number 3. Looks like Gene Hackman. You just think he'd do that.
Okay.
Movie star day here today.
Bill Cullen.
Lemon is good with fish.
Oh,
I didn't know. I voted for number 2 for the simple reason that I was standing there that day on the 18th floor looking out the window.
get out of here.
Went right down by. I said, hi there. Yeah, there he was.
Yeah. Okay. Did I say it? If I didn't, $50 for each incorrect vote,
please.
and $500 if all the votes are wrong.
You said that before.
Oh, did I say that before? Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to find out because I'm going to ask that great question. This is the part I really love. Will the real Owen Quinn please stand up? $500, yeah. Congratulations. Well, he couldn't have done it without his teammates, as the expression goes. Let's find out about the imposters. Number 2, what is your name and what do you do?
My name is Tom Miller. I do inventory control for the Nestle company.
Well, number 3 got 3 votes, and Peggy, I want you especially to listen to his name, what he's doing now, and what he used to do. Number 3.
My name is Gary Wood, and I'm an insurance broker with John M. Breeding Company and a former football player of the Giants.
Gary Wood from the New York Giants, yeah. Well, Gary, you did a fantastic job along with number 2. And Owen, congratulations, $500. We thank you for playing To Tell the Truth. Thank you, our 2 imposters. Thank you very much. Well, our next guest is often heard to mutter, "Out, out, damned spot." But believe me, Shakespeare has nothing to do with it. You come back in just a little over 2 minutes, you'll see what I'm talking about. And now let's meet an authority on spot and stain removal.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Max Alf.
Number 2.
My name is Max Alf.
And number 3.
My name is Max Alf.
All right, read along, panel. Make some notes as I tell you how Max Alf handles spots. I, Max Alf, can tell you how to get that spot out. Let's face it, there's not a household anywhere that at one time or another hasn't had a problem of how to get rid of a spot or stain. Maybe you already know what to do about blood, lipstick, ink, and food stains. But would you know how to handle bug stains, grass stains, skunk odor and stain? And what about tobacco juice and model airplane glue, fish mucus, and horse saliva, huh? What would you do about those? Well, I tell you how to handle all of the above and dozens more in a book which I co-authored. It's called The Stain Removal Handbook, signed Max Alf. Well, I guarantee if he's got a chapter on how to get mozzarella and pepperoni stains out, I'll buy the book, because it's murder. All right. Peggy, we're going to start with you.
Thank you. Number 3, I know the answer, so you be careful. How do you get rid of skunk odors on dogs? Thank you. Number 1, in Europe they have a novel way of getting grease stains out of, like, Pucci dresses. Could you please tell me what they do if you spill spaghetti sauce on yourself in an Italian restaurant in Italy?
Well, they usually pour a little Fugi water on you.
Thank you. And number 2, this is a little bit delicate, but what do you do about rugs when you have dogs?
Well, you're very careful.
No, I'm careful. It's the dog that isn't careful. The dog is careless.
You chastise the dog, you send him or her out of the room, then you take a piece of toilet paper and you remove as much of the soil as you possibly can. As a guide to general cleaning, I would use a little cold water first to remove as much of the remaining soil as possible.
Number 2, I always thought it was club soda, no?
That's for drunks.
What do you mean it's for drunks? What do you mean club soda's for drunks?
I've heard that a lot, but I would never use club soda.
No?
No.
But why do you say club soda's for drunks?
Because that's what it goes with, drinks.
Oh, I see. Gee, I thought I was onto something there. Number 3, how do you get lipstick stains off white shirts?
You blot up the lipstick first with a little clean cloth, and then you run for the oil solvent, which is a lot of products that are known as oil cleaners, oil solvents, because wax is in lipstick. And then you use a...
Well, half answer you got there, Peggy. Bill Cullen.
Number 1, can you remove spots from pure silk?
It's quite difficult.
Do you have a method in your book for it?
Yes, there are several methods. Your best way, silk can't take water. It really shouldn't. Modern silk. The best way would be with an oil solvent.
Number 2, is there anything in your book that tells you how you, a person at home, can remove a spot that otherwise would have to be sent to the cleaners for professional cleaning?
When you say a spot, you cover a wide range, so It could be grease spots, butter spots. It could be almost anything. I would say that what you should do is examine the spot and in relation to the cloth decide what you're going to do. And if it's tough or if your garment is very valuable, I wouldn't even try it. I just rush it down to the dry cleaner.
Number 3, what is it the dry cleaner can do that we can't do?
Remove spots that we can't remove.
I mean, what do they do? But is it all that much a secret, or do they have equipment that we do not have?
Well, they have a different cleaning solution, and certain fabrics cannot stand water.
Mm-hmm.
So, say silks can't stand water. Certain wools you really shouldn't hand wash or spot wash. And if you do spot wash them to a degree, a little bit, you still got to clean the whole garment.
Number 1 was...
Kitty.
Well, that's fascinating. Number 1, what do you clean with French chalk? What comes out with French chalk?
French chalk will take grease out of leather gloves.
Thank you. Number 3, why is it that you can't use water on silk today? You could in the past.
Well,
what is in the silk that makes it different?
Well, it depends which kind. You mean pure silk?
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of it leaves sort of a water stain.
Uh-huh. Well, now, number 2, I'm not apt to run into fish mucus or horse saliva or airplane glue, but I would like to know what to do about that blood and ink.
Well, you've picked 2 hard ones. The first thing you should do with blood, again, is to try to blot up as much as possible. Then, if the garment can be washed, if it will take water, you can use a little cold water.
No, very hot, I thought.
No.
Very
no.
hot.
Hot water will set all stains, in fact, almost all things. And hot water will coagulate blood.
And what about the ink?
It depends upon the kind of ink and the kind of clothes that you have, the kind of cloth that you're dealing with.
Number 3, what about red wine stains on white tablecloths?
Well,
I think that's good for club soda, no? Because number 2 said drunks. Drunks, yeah.
Well, red wine, you really should flush it with cold water first. And then you should try a little bit of salt. You start making a salad, you know. And then you try a little soapy water. Club soda, you know,
You throw it away.
then you get some dye.
Nipsey.
Number 1, what is your whole first name?
My whole first
Yeah, I
name,
know it's
Max.
Not Maxine.
No, it is not Maxine.
Okay, number 2, what does one use to remove stains like nail polish and hairspray?
Well, nail polish is difficult because it's basically a plastic dissolved in some kind of solvent like an acetone.
Tell them about the
if it's-
hairspray, Max.
Hello?
Tell them about the hairspray. I want to hear it.
Well, that's an example of what can happen to you
let
in
me
the
ask
city.
you another question. Number 3, how does one remove a rust spot?
Well, rust is, you really should,
Okay.
that's a goodie. You
All
really
right,
should flush
let me
that.
skip the goodie and go to number 1. If you took another substance other than cloth, how would you remove a stain like from a bathtub?
Well, if it's rust, you have to use dilute
Now, I mean, say if you're
hydrochloric.
washing your hair and you wash hair dye into the surface of the enamel, how do you get that stain out of enamel?
You would have to use, I can't use a term, a cleansing powder with a bleaching agent.
Okay, number 2, do you do it with...
Oh, no, that's all you're going to get. No more free advice. You're going to have to buy the book, Nips, because right now you're going to have to vote. Do you think it's number 1? Or do you think it is number 2? Or do you think it is number 3? All right, Peggy, you got us started. How did you vote?
Well, number 1 doesn't know that in Italy they always throw a whole bunch of talcum powder on your dress when you get grease on it. And 2, I didn't like his method for dogs. But number 3, look at how light her suit is. Expanses of light material. She's fearless. And actually, she knows how to take the spots out.
Okay, logic. Bill Cullen.
Old man used to come around in my neighborhood, mixed a potion that would remove any kind of spot at all, and India ink, blood, lipstick, anything. I carry it with me all the time. I voted for number 1.
You didn't mark it.
Huh?
You didn't mark it.
Yes, I did, but some of my stuff ran off.
You know what he did? He threw it out and he got it right here. And he did it real in. Nice going, Cullen. Boy, you really reeled me in. Kitty, I'm afraid to ask you, but you're too nice a lady to do it.
No, I didn't do that. No, I voted for number 2 because I thought that he gave me some good. They all gave good answers, and they all gave some answers that I thought weren't absolutely correct.
All right. Nipsey, you're the tiebreaker.
Well, I went for number 2 because I do know that cold water dissipates and warm water coagulates substances like blood.
Okay, the votes are all in. Let's ask that great question. Will the real Max Ulf please stand up? Okay. Let's find out who the imposters are right now. Number 1, what is your name and what do you do?
My name is Roberta Weissman. I teach business at Upsala College in East Orange, New Jersey.
Okay. Number 3, what is your name and what do you do?
My name is Charlotte Bose, and I'm a commercial real estate salesman for Vincent Parator.
Very good. You got
Well,
it.
a most enjoyable spot, a most enjoyable visit. Max, thank you very much,
You're
and
quite
thank you,
welcome,
our
sir.
2 imposters, for playing our game. Thank you very much.
Our central characters today will receive Mr. Coffee. Joe DiMaggio says Mr. Coffee with exclusive coffee saver saves coffee, saves money. And Bissell's dual-powered light vest, strong suction for all floor surfaces, Viper-Clean Brush Bissell. And original from Yardley, a famous British fragrance for men. Give him original cologne and aftershave by Yardley.
Well, we learned something and we had some fun. And panel, I enjoyed it, and I must say you've been described many ways, but today you look sexy to me. Huh?
Yeah. Sexy.
Right. Wait, he's got a poem.
There is so much talk about sex today that I have made a vow to find the guy who invented sex and see what he's working on now. So long, everybody.
In addition to the cash awards, our first team of challengers will receive fashion jewelry from Sarah Coventry, who has jewelry for every occasion. See the jewelry with fashion know-how at a Sarah Coventry Home Fashion Show. Our second team will receive Turtle Wax, the world's largest selling liquid car wax. Cleans, polishes, protects in one easy operation. Turtle Wax with a hard shell finish.
Stay tuned for all the day's top late-breaking stories on the 10 o'clock Action News with Pat Harper and Steve Bosch. The 10 o'clock Action News, ready when you are. Coming up next, right here on 11 a Lot. WPIX, New York.
Friday, November 10th, teenage sisters die in an apparent double suicide.